The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, has introduced the Production Monitoring Command Center as a transformative step in hydrocarbon operations. This initiative, driven by NNPC Upstream Investment Management Services, will boost efforts of the Command and Control Center to enhance monitoring, operational efficiency, and production within the oil and gas sector, with the objective of increasing efficiency and boosting production in the industry. This initiative not only aligns with national goals, but also strengthens Nigeria's position in the global energy market, ensuring long-term growth and profitability for all stakeholders. And to examine in detail the state of Nigeria's oil and gas sector in the past 1 year, I have with me in the studio the president of the Petroleum Products Retail Outlets Owners Association, Petroleum, Billy Sotubo, Gillis-Harry.
Thank you so much for having me, and very lovely. It's a Christmas or New Year gift to hear you call my native name Sotubo.
Sotubo.
I'm so happy to
Yeah, I mean, the Okanike was telling you outside the camera before we come on air, he says that a man's name is the sweetest sound in any language in his ear. I mean, sorry, as the NNPCL grapples with theft and what have you, Kunle is also grappling with traffic or whatever. He's not here yet, so we'll have to deal with Sosubo here in the studio. All right, so glad to have you join.
Thank you so much for having me, and good evening, Nigerians.
All right, let's start with the oil benchmark of $75, the budget of 2025 by the President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and 2.06 million barrels per day. Is this feasible, achievable, bearing in mind the challenges of militancy, vandalization, oil shocks? NEC, Nigerian Economic Society, says this should be brought down to 70, the benchmark, because of oil shocks. What do you think?
Well, that price benchmark, I think that is what I will leave for, very critical technical analysis to justify. But if the budget has been benchmarked at $75, what we should do as a country, in my opinion, is that we should work very hard to make sure that our production capacity increases. Because just in case the the benchmark falls to even 65, and when you have a higher production quota, it can give us a soft landing.
Yep.
And that's what I think. But the other question you've asked is it feasible to do 2.6 million barrels today?
Per day.
The question I will ask is, does Nigeria have 2.6 million barrels beneath our subsurface in Nigeria? And we do have. And we have even more than that. So I think what we need to do is to work honestly with all the challenges that we've had that has limited our production capacity. Theft is one of them. But how do you handle theft if all the other values that create that loss in production are not taken care of? For instance, we are doing production sharing, joint venture. As a country, we need to do quite a lot of technical and technology, pushing to ensure that we are in charge of our business and that we are not leaving our businesses for, others to teach us or to tell us what we should do. I recall when I was much younger, as president of Port Harcourt Chamber of Commerce, we had a visit with the Kazakhs, and we saw how they do their business. For every contract they are given, you must be embedded with a local that must understudy you, that must understand the business, and be able to ensure that they can go it alone. In Nigeria, we need to start thinking about that model. So if we take care of our technical needs, our technology needs, and then we now come in to discuss about the community issues that have not been, quite handled over the course of the last decades.
Like?
Well, the community issues are always one of the reasons why it's very easy for theft to be perpetrated. Because if a community is fully involved in the production of whatever assets that's going to grow the country and also grow them, they will be the watchmen to make sure that nobody comes to pilfer anything.
By involvement, you mean?
They should have a share of the business. They should understand exactly what the business is all about, which they don't know. Because, again, when I was president of Port Harcourt Chamber of Commerce, I developed a project. It's called PASAND, Peace and Security Alternative of the Niger Delta. And that was a major program that I thought, if the authorities had bought at that time, could have mitigated so many of the issues that were challenging us. Because as a Chamber of Commerce, we are neither government nor the company that will be suspected by the natives. So the Chamber would have been the mediator in all the businesses, not just in oil and gas, even in agriculture and other things that would have been. But mostly at the time that I thought about that, that policy and that idea, it was focused on oil and gas. So the Chamber takes very strong, inroad into the community, ensure that the community has understanding of what is about to happen in their community, and get them to buy in with the government and the company. And then it's very easy, because nobody is going to destroy what they want to grow the economy with.
Yeah, nobody wants to destroy what he owns or what is a stakeholder in.
Exactly.
Still talking about the challenges and how we can unearth what we have, like you said, beneath the soil. Military and security forces have dismantled 56, according to them, bunkering sites. Seized 88 cooking drums, recovered 1.2 million liters of stolen crude oil, etc. Are you satisfied with government and their handling of particularly bunkering activities?
Well, in my opinion, most of these discussions, we only hear about them in the newspapers, in the TVs, and I just want to be able to honestly address it, that I hope is not just a television show, because we have recruits from every part of Nigeria in the service. And then most of these stealings and breakages of pipelines and all of that, and creating any kind of pseudo refining. That's, I will call it, because there's no other name I can know how to call it. Communities are there. People, Nigerians that were recruited in the military and all of that are there. And everybody that's breaking pipeline is from a family. So for me, the most critical will be data. Data of what is happening in any particular area where we have an asset. And that will enable us to mitigate any possible infractions. And for instance, today, we are talking about how many sites that have been destroyed. So what is the process of the destruction? Burning? You're burning crude oil, and then what happens to our environment? Our environment gets more destroyed, and the Niger Delta, as it is, already crying for mediation on different issues, are already in a state where we don't know what's going to happen in the next 50 or 100 years. So I don't think that it's best for us to be burning and destroying these sites. What could have been done is intelligence should have guided us on how to arrest the situation, and then bring our very valuable assets of crude oil that is being destroyed into storage.
Are you talking about prevention?
We should prevent. We should prevent, and then we should also act in a way that if prevention failed, and there's an actual arrest of perpetrators, we shouldn't burn our assets.
What should we do?
We should bring them into storage. We should ensure that this act will make sure that nobody is trying to do the same. And like I told you, in everything we are going to do, if the community is involved, very seriously, we have the kings, we have the youth, we have the women, we have different categories of Nigerians that are in these areas that are struggling daily to eat.
They will own it.
They will own it. And once they own it, that is the biggest security that you can be able to get.
All right. According to you, subsidy was not sustainable.
Yes.
Opening up the market to attract investment is key to achieving 1, sufficient product supply, 2, drop in prices. But that's definitely not the case. Is it a case of Nigerians, the more you look, the less you see?
Well, I do not believe so. First of all, let me tell you that I believe in Nigeria. I have a lot of courage and confidence that this country will be a great country in no distant time. And why I'm so confident that this government will be leading that way, I don't know yet. But somehow, I have a very strong feeling in my spirit that something great is going to happen in Nigeria. And I'm praying that we all should be alive to see that happen. Now, subsidy, as we know it, was gulping billions of naira.
That's the point. That's the problem, as we know it.
Yes.
We know it.
As we know it. It's very important because I can only say what I know. I'm not going to be talking about things that are speculated or just analyzed out of an armchair basis. I want to give information on an empirical basis.
Good.
Because that's the only way we can solve problems. And I do encourage us as Nigerians to focus on that. Get facts, put plans, make sure that the squares are in the squares and the rounds and the rounds.
Yeah.
And all of us can collectively make this country a great country. Because, I've looked at life truthfully. There's nothing we need more than giving happiness to ourselves.
That's true.
So regardless of how much money you are pursuing.
Where you come from.
Actually, in my family, we don't even know who's actually from anywhere. Because I have an Hausa name. I don't have an Igbo name, but my children in Igbo have Igbo names. Some of my younger ones spoke Fufude before they passed. They speak Gwari. So in my family, we actually don't even know what is this issue about tribe. I'm an Ijaw man, and I'm very proud of that. And I speak about that as a Calabar Ijaw man. But at the end of the day, I need more than being an Ijaw man to be happy.
That's true.
And I think that every Nigerian should be able to focus on that. So let's, go to where we're trying to address. Now, we were borrowing, we were spending billions, as we were told. Then suddenly, we started spending trillions. And these trillions, we were told we are borrowing them. So we are mortgaging the future of our children, generations and generations yet unborn. And one day, some country that we're owing will just walk into Nigeria and tell us, just like they're taking our aircrafts. And such things should frighten us as a country. So for people like me that will have the heart to look at the realities of life, we will not support what is going to, take our children's future away from them. So let me just run.
Okay.
So for me, subsidies paid for PMS, for crying out loud, is not even for kerosene. That is a household, use that old women and very poor people are using. But just for PMS. And we are spending 6 trillion. I don't know, because maybe I know money, and I know the sound of money, and I know the size of money.
Yeah.
So for me, it's frightening. And that's why when I speak with my team, not just in Petron, but in other circles of economic analysis that I belong, we look at how this money even gets to that size and what this money can do for other segments of Nigeria. Education, skills enhancement, SME funding, rail lines, looking at our transportation system, ensuring that there's efficiency and there's happiness that is generated for Nigerians in everywhere.
Yeah, but
6 trillion is a lot of money.
Yeah, but
and that's why we support.
Yeah, but the point I made was that this is supposed to help supply, hasn't helped it. It was supposed to bring.
What do you mean supply? Which of the supplies now? PMS?
Yeah, I mean when when the president said
subsidies removed,
gone.
Yes.
I mean, just how many days? I mean, Nigerians were queuing like mad on lines, and they couldn't even get the petrol, even with a high cost of price per liter, which I will come to.
Not sounding to defend anybody.
Yeah.
If I was an advisor to the president, or if I was in his camp in campaigning for him, I would have advised that that statement could have waited for a little while. Because prior to that time, we, the stakeholders, led by MEMAN, the Major Energy Marketers Association of Nigeria, very critical group in this country to be able to stabilize everything. And also DAPMAN, the Depot Marketers Association, very critical leaders. And of course, Petron was part of them, and some other organizations were part of that. We were already thinking about how we can bring rules to manage and control ourselves, in addition to what NMDPRO and any other authorities will do. And we were waiting for the then president to invite us to a roundtable to discuss our solutions. And then that did not happen. And then the president came and made that pronouncement. The word of the king has power. And instantly, it reverberated across the country. But, my dear friend, this is only 1 year, 6 months plus. So, we have had difficulties in decades in this issue. So, this season, honestly, if you ask me truthfully, I'll give credit to all the players. Not that they are not making errors. And I'm one of those who will insist on transparency, accountability, and effective management of our resources. But they have done a good job. Today, Dangote refinery is on. Don't forget that Dangote refinery was commissioned far before this administration came. And we didn't see anything. But under this administration, we have gone to talk about naira for crude. We've the Dangote refinery is up and running, roaring and reeling out products.
So to government is a continuum. That's what I mean. Is a continuum.
It's a good thing to continue, but there's also a difference between continuing what could bring results and what could not bring results.
I'll hold you there on a pause. We'll get back and we'll talk about general rule. The richer countries have higher petroleum prices. Lower countries should have lower petroleum prices, particularly producing countries, which we are second largest. We'll talk about that and some other issues. But you're still watching Arise Prime Time. We'll be back in just a bit. Don't go anywhere. We're glad to have you back. You're still watching Prime Time here on Arise. This is where we offer perspectives on the news and talking points of the day. I am Ndi Amugo. And the discussion continues on the state of Nigeria's oil and gas sector in 2024 prime time with my guest, renowned oil, gas and gas expert, Sotubo Gillis-Harry. Billy Sotubo Gillis-Harry.
Thank you so
All
much.
right, we're going to get to talk about the president's executive orders, what the NNPC is doing with the monitoring board at launch. But as a general rule, like I said before we took that breather, richer countries have higher petroleum prices, lower for poorer countries and countries producing oil like Nigeria. Nigeria is now behind Angola as the largest oil producer in Africa, yet Nigeria is highest, only behind Gabon. In terms of prices, Libya, Algeria, Egypt, and Angola, some of their prices are $0.33. Ours is 1 point something. Ours is 0.78, sorry. It beats your imagination. Why?
Well, if that's a question for me to answer, I will just say that, first of all, every country has a different parameter by which they measure the landing price of their 1 liter.
Ours is very high. All over the world it's been proven.
Incidentally, I was given that challenge a couple of days ago, and I went to check and find out that our production cost is very high.
Very high.
And that calls for a review, in my opinion, from the NNPC and from the leadership of the country, because it's business. They say government has no business in doing business. I don't agree with that, because government business is the biggest business that engages employees. But in our case, we have so narrowed down what kind of work we are doing that we have less, government employees than the private sector. All right? Now, what is the landing price of 1 liter of product of PMS in Libya, even in this state of their disarray?
Yeah.
So that will determine what the pump price will be at the retail outlets. In Nigeria, it will not be any different. So if prices are in a certain position, the question I would like to ask is, what are the input costs that have arrived at that particular costs element that is required? And don't forget, you must have to make profit in everything you do.
If you're
stay in business, yes. So once that information is filtered, then we can work it backwards and ask, why is this so? Why is that so? Why is that so?
Are we even bothered? Are we asking those questions?
Yeah, but
are we
must
thinking that way? I mean, for the sake of the country, for the sake of the people?
We must be bothered as Nigerians. I'm a Nigerian, and I speak as a Nigerian that is having problem in even paying my flight tickets. When I look at the size of the tickets, it's a challenge, even to me. And we need to get to know exactly where we're going, because in the place, this country is ours.
You and I.
If you like, have 10 passports of any part of the world, you will never be a first-class citizen in that country.
You won't.
So you must get back. And what really gives us our value is that we have a home base, which we call our village. In some places, they say, don't call it village. I like to call it village.
Call it villa.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what they want to call it. But
not villa, Asarok.
Yeah, it gives me real happiness. So let's look at those issues. The landing price is very critical to be able to be understood, so we can know what our retail prices should be like. Now, for instance, in the last few weeks, you can see prices coming down. And sometimes I'm asked, oh, is this a Christmas gift? Well, if the refiners have said it's a Christmas gift, so be it. But for me, as a leader of Petroleum Product Retail Outlet Owners Association, I like to drill deep to know exactly why the prices were that way. And I found out that there were entrepreneurial factors, entrepreneurial environmental factors, entrepreneurial, changes that consistently will affect, pricing. And then, of course, we are now moved into a fully deregulated downstream, economy. So the prices, again, will be determined by who is buying and who is selling, who is willing and who is not willing. And all of those things will come into play. So as far as the price is concerned, if Nigeria wants our prices to come down, then we need to walk it back to know why we are landing 1 liter of PMS at such a price.
Now you've talked about prices. So what do you make of the so-called price war between Dangote and NNPC, which has reduced the price? Infinitesimal, but it's a reduction.
Oh, no, it's not infinitesimal.
The price is still high.
Yeah, it's high.
Still quite high.
It's high because we are not taking into cognizance that our naira is still taking a bash from the dollar. And regardless of whether we are selling crude oil to refiners in Nigeria, in Nigerian naira or not, it is just an exchange value.
Because the real gist is when you make these policies, Osubo, remove the subsidy, float the naira, what have you, are you not supposed to make the Nigerian people comfortable? But people are groaning in this situation because of the oil that we have.
I don't want to sound like a doomsday prophet, but you have heard it said several times that most of our crude oil was forward sold. We are saddled with a challenge in this administration. And I agree that every Nigerian should be comfortable 24/7. I want to be. I want to be able to go home without worrying about security. I want to be able to go out and enjoy my life as it
Send
used
my
to be.
children to school
Go to
without
school.
worrying about the controlled prices.
Exactly.
Have a house, a roof under my head without worrying about the landlord increasing it by 150%.
That is where we should be. But a lot of things have passed under the bridge. And we are right now trying to get answers. And this, for me, my opinion. And this is why I will advise anybody that's advising the president or working for him as a minister to focus on the stability of this country. Elections have come and gone, and we should only be talking about elections few weeks, few months
To the election.
To the election.
And not
Months and years. So now, if we have men and women of integrity and patriotism that are going to focus on giving our president and his team a useful, valuable, and pragmatic, advice, we should be looking at how the Nigerian is stable. I don't agree that poor people are easy to control. Because poor people, when I was a kid, I used to respect people.
It's not even true.
Yeah, it's not true. I used to respect people who used to write petition against their colleagues or whatever. And then I got to find out at the age of 19, when the election for Shagari was coming up, I was a major player in the service at that time from the Eleco part of it. And I learned that a lot of things that I can't even admire somebody who is writing petition. The reason is the man is hungry. He saw his colleague eating chicken, he didn't eat, and he goes to write a petition. So the poverty is not what you can control very easily. And the earlier we all understand as a country.
That's a hungry man is an angry man.
Yeah, we need to really, really make this country.
All right, let's talk this too before I go into gas, before time catches up on us. Okay. The NNPCL has launched a monitoring command center to enhance hydrocarbon operations. It's also been touted that we don't even have the data, cogent data, of how much fuel Nigerians consume. How will this change that narrative? And of course, talk alongside that, the president signing of 3 executive orders to encourage more investment, cut costs by investors, and to streamline and enhance effectiveness. Has this helped? Any reasonable, noticeable impact?
Well, let me congratulate the president for having the political courage to sign those executive orders. And I hope that they will achieve the purpose for which the president has thought. Somehow I have a confidence in him because he's an accountant. And accountants ordinarily are very frugal and very careful with money. They're very conservative. And also he's a businessman. And then he's a politician that has gone through the thick and swines of this.
It's the politician side that
but whatever, the combination of his character will be shaped by these experiences. Okay. So believe me, I expect that this president is ready to change Nigeria. And we need to really give him the support to do that. I hope that he's able to make his lieutenants, those who are working with him to understand that exactly there's a work to be done. Bigger than just elections or winning elections. Because that's not the focus. We should focus on how Nigeria will be great. So that when the story is told, they'll say, when Senator Bola Tinubu was president, this and this and this and this changed. Even if there are 4 things that can make Nigeria to become a great nation, we're going to focus on that. So those executive orders were in order. And like I said, I just hope that the purpose for which it was set would be functional. Now, the NNPC PMCC is a fantastic idea. And I would have thought that that should have been there a long time ago. But if it is being launched now today in a much more efficient way, then that's something that's welcome. It's going to help. The data that we need can only be generated by such technology. And that's why Petron, in our local zeal, developed what was called the PCAC, Petroleum Quality Assurance and Quality Control Tool, which we ended up developing as Primis. Now, I had hoped that government would call us and be able to look at the efficiency of that technology so that you also don't spend so much money in looking for new technologies that's going to do the same thing.
Maybe it's not too late.
What is it?
Maybe it's not too late. Maybe you still be cool.
Well, it's not too late. We've been talking about it for the last 4 years. And we meant it, where we have developed and developed and developed it to the point today that you can use our tool and it will protect your product from where it's loaded to wherever it's going.
So, Nigeria gas reserves is estimated to be one of the largest in Africa.
Yes.
Growing demand for this gives us a comparative advantage. Are we investing enough to meet domestic and international demands?
Well, I don't think we're investing enough. And I will encourage, one of the executive orders that was done was to encourage investments. So I would really like the president to, leave it open, especially for those of us who are even in the industry, to interact with him. Because we could be able to change a lot of things. What government is thinking to spend 1 billion naira or $1 billion? Petron will just do that for some few billions if we have the access. But why? Because we're businessmen. Most of us started this business with as low as 10,000 naira. Today we're doing millions and billions. So there must be something very peculiar about a Nigerian entrepreneur, especially Petron members who have been through the thick and thin to a life to get to where we are.
I don't expect you to say otherwise.
No,
it's your
but that's the truth.
All right, well, talk to us about government's initiative to promote gas utilization, such as the Nigeria Gas Master Plan and the Gas Revolution Industrial Park.
The master plan has been there for a long time. Don't forget that Engineer Jide, when he was Group Executive Director, really made a lot of, inroad into that. And most of the things that he did just are lying down there with no action to them. Personally, I would want to advise that they pick up some of all those gas master plan ideas that were generated by that young man who really had love for Nigeria to come. And those are the kind of people we should have in Nigeria to serve. I'm being honest to you. Now, other than that, we should start investing in our CNG initiative, which the president started. And of course, the PCNG is on doing that. We, as operators in the industry, are willing to help.
I mean, I don't want to go into talking about this should have been done before the
subsidy removal.
Yeah.
No, but you see, there is no time that's late.
You don't put a cart before the horse.
But the important thing is that you have an idea and it's going to work. You need to stand up.
All right. Petron, of which you are the president, has a plan to launch a new 50,000 barrels per day modular refinery to start production in Nigeria.
Yes.
Talk about modular refineries is like taking forever to do.
Well, modular refineries are already established in Nigeria. You have Aradel, you have the Niger Delta refinery, you have Edo refinery.
Are they operational?
They're operational. Aradel is just about getting started. You have Walter Smith that's working very well and producing some of the critical products like AGO.
But are nowhere near being enough?
No, it cannot be enough because their sizes are not that much. But that's why when Petron was approached by this American firm to start to import product for us, we told them we are no longer importing because we want to grow the Nigerian value. So if you want to work with us, and work with our numbers, then think about a refinery. And they didn't waste time.
Yeah.
They came back with that refinery plan, put some local officers in Akwa Ibom, and they are already cracking to start breaking ground in Akwa Ibom.
You're also calling for government to, to
Yes.
establish an energy bank to make
Yes.
funds accessible to petrol marketers at single-digit rates.
Yes.
One, speak to this, and how will this
That
improve
is
a lot of
that is very
Nigerians?
critical, because one of the things that is making prices in our retail outlets to be high is the cost of money. We're paying between 38 and 40% right now as I speak to you. And most of us don't even have the access to that, because they ask you for your grandmother's grave to give you the money. So now once it's that way, then we start working out within ourselves how we can be able to work that. But if the government can just put 100 billion naira only into a Nigerian energy bank, strictly to service the downstream, because the local content is already providing money for the upstream and other midstream activities. But for the downstream, 100 billion that will be able to, not that it will do much, but that's when the capacity and the energy and the gravitas of the Nigerian entrepreneur can be put to test.
Motivation.
Yes, not just motivation.
Okay.
Because the Nigerian entrepreneur is aggressive. He has a push. That's why I say the gravitas of the Nigerian entrepreneur.
I see when I talked about that, you really came forward.
Yes,
and
yes,
you
yes.
were
yes,
bouncing.
yeah. Because it's the real thing.
Yeah, because you need the money to roll the dice.
If we have the money, we roll the dice, Nigerians will get product more affordable. Now think about it. These gentlemen that are signing with us, but we've already signed the preliminary documents in Port Harcourt, and we are going to sign the full MOU sometime next week.
Yeah. All right. What role can rail transportation play in improving this sector?
Rail transportation can do a lot. One, you can see our roads are already having problem because of the heavy loads that are working on it minute by minute. The rail lines should be expeditiously fixed, and they should all be trained straight into the petroleum depots, to the refineries, to anywhere there's a refinery is, there should be a rail line that is attached to it, so it gets into the system. Now, once that is done, the cost of transportation will drastically drop per liter. The Nigerian will benefit it. These are the ways to get the affordable price. It will not be artificial when the president or the NNPC, GCO, or anyone that is in the office will just say, this is how much a PMS is going to cost. It will not make sense. But once we have those input costs, and transportation logistics is a very critical one, so that will help a lot. And I encourage the federal government to focus on fixing our rail lines and training those rail lines into all the depots and all the refineries.
From what we've been talking about, okay, let me even ask you this, before I drop that. How has the discovery of gas field at OML 102 offshore oil field operated by Total Energies, in which the state oil firm has 60%, how has it been able to drive the market?
Well, I am completely unable to discuss that because that's an upstream.
Okay,
clearly upstream business.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. From where you sit or where you stand, if you're not sitting, maybe with your crystal ball, if you do have any, going forward, where do you see the sector, oil and gas sector? Dispassionately, because we're just discussing, you said you're not on any side. Where do you see the oil and gas sector going forward?
Well, I think it's going to be good times for the oil and gas sector.
Is it just good times for the players or for the Nigerians?
It will be good times for the players and also good times for Nigerians. First, in the downstream area, you can see the dynamics of how pricing is coming down. And I do not really agree that it's price war. I forgot to address that. I will rather say that it is the need to be able to enter into the market effectively and efficiently that has brought prices in that way. Remember I said that there must be...
I'm going to talk about market prices.
Yeah, okay. So now,
they can stay in business.
In the future of Nigeria, from 2025, I believe from June, a lot of things will settle down. Today, there are so many moving parts, and everybody is moving to do a lot of things, and that's one of the good things I have with my team in Petron. We are always calmly looking at situations in a futuristic manner.
Yeah.
We were challenged in the OTL in October that Petron should not just be looking to sell fuel in the retail outlets and do the other services. We have already shown Nigerians that we have the capacity. We're already coming up with a refinery proposal that's going to work. Hopefully, before the end of the year, that refinery will be rearing its head up. So it shows that we also listen
for this
to
crash
the fallout
prices.
of
Will it crash prices?
Of course, it will. There is no refinery that's going to produce PMS into the market that will not increase the volume and make petroleum product available. And once there's availability, and this has been my position for a long time, once there's availability, there will be price dynamics and service dynamics and even different things that maybe when you are coming to my retail outlet, I'll be giving you popcorn, or I'll be giving you something that will attract you
that's nice.
And make your children to come. So we are going to get into those areas, and that's why I say there's going to be good times in Nigeria.
All right. Thank you so much, Billy Sotubo Gillis-Harry. I mean, you like Sotubo.
Thank you. I like
for being here. All right, that's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Do join us again next week from me and the entire team here in Abuja. Goodbye, and thank you for watching.